I think with Ben being the only defense character in the game so far, I feel like he's highly misunderstood, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand what he kind of offers to the team and just overall. Today we're going to be talking about an entire build guide when it comes to Ben. And so hey guys, my name is Mr. Ocean, and without further ado, let's just get started. To get started, let's talk about his abilities to kind of see what he offers in his kit. And so first, let's talk about Debt Recollection. And so basically, when you're having your attack, he's going to unleash up to 3 strikes, dealing physical damage. So he's going to be dealing heavy damage when it comes to having his giant weapon and essentially launching in the air, basically doing a giant slam attack, which is only going to do physical damage, which he's more catered towards fire damage. So it's not really that impressive. And so moving on to his dodge. And so since Ben is one of the biggest characters in the game, it seems as if he's a little bit more sluggish, which he is. And so to start off with his dodge, we have Missing Invoice, which is just a rapid regular dodge, and this character is going to be invulnerable while using the skill. Next, we have Incoming Expense. So when dodging against the enemy, you can do an attack, being able to strike the enemy in front of him, dealing physical damage. So essentially when you're dodging, you could do an entire strike, pushing forward towards the enemy, dealing massive physical damage. And so moving on to his dodge counter, which is highly more important, which is Account Settled. So when dealing a perfect dodge, he can strike the enemy in front of him, dealing massive fire damage. Since Ben is primarily going to deal fire damage, this is going to be his go-to move when swapping into it. And so next we have his special attack, which is Fiscal Fist. And so when Ben lifts his weapon, blocking the enemy's attack before unleashing a strike, dealing physical damage. Successfully blocking an attack enhances the power of the skill and triggers block counter, dealing massive physical damage. As well as when you hold it and remain in blocking stance, while you're in that blocking stance, Ben gains a shield that weakens over time, and after leaving the blocking stance, the shield is removed and recovers over time. The shield cannot exceed up to 16% of Ben's max health. In this state, Ben is invulnerable when activating his block, and as well as anti-interrupt level is going to be increased while launching strikes. So essentially with his basic skill, he's essentially just going to be blocking and doing the claw slash, dealing physical damage, which without enough energy, you're just kind of doing basic damage. That's when we move on to his EX special attack, Cash Flow Counter. Again, when Ben lifts his weapon, blocking the enemy's attack before unleashing a forward strike, dealing fire damage, and successfully blocking an attack enhances the power of this skill and triggers block counter, dealing massive fire damage. Again, while blocking, his shield cannot exceed up to 16% of Ben's max HP. As well as after activating the skill, you can also press it again to follow up with another powerful strike, dealing massive fire damage. So this is kind of where he shines. So his purpose is for defense as a defense character to block. And so Ben's kit is kind of primarily catered towards blocking and massive explosive damage. Next, we have his ultimate. So first we have his chain attack, Signed and Sealed. So when a chain attack is triggered, the selected character that is activated is going to unleash a powerful strike at enemies in front in a large area, dealing massive fire damage. And the character is going to be invulnerable in this state. To move forward with his ultimate, Complete Payback, when the decibel rating is at maximum, he unleashes a powerful strike onto the enemies in front in a large area, dealing fire damage. And again, with this, he's going to be recovering 3 assistant points when activating this. So that's very beneficial because with your assist points, it's going to drain down over time, but it's not really a big deal because I haven't seen a lack of assist points so far when playing this game. Another thing to kind of add on that's very interesting and special about Ben is that he is kind of an assistant with Colida. And so with Colida, they essentially pair each other kind of well together. So if you were to have Colida and have her proc her ult, essentially Ben is going to be assisting her and dealing more damage. And so it's kind of like that kind of paired duo, which is kind of dynamic. So you kind of want to have both of them on the team, which is very important. Next, moving on to his W engines. And so to start off with, best weapon so far for him as of right now is going to be Big Cylinder. Its W engine effect, 10 ton top, reduces damage taken by 12%. And after being attacked, the attack followed up with that to hit the enemy will trigger a critical hit and deal 960% of the equipper's defense as additional damage. This effect can trigger once every 7.5 seconds. This is where it comes into play that you need to stack up defense with Ben. Unlike other characters where you need to stack essentially crit rate, attack, their elemental type, you essentially want to just stack defense on top defense, because the more defense you have, the more damage you're going to do, especially with this weapon. Whatever value you have, that is going to be increased by 960%. The next weapon that you can have for him is Bunny Band, and for its W engine effect, Pet the Bunny, it'll increase the max HP by 11.6% and increase the equipper's attack by 14.5% when they are shielded. Essentially, when they're going to be shielded is most of the time when they are in their block stance, in their block state. Also, it's beneficial as well to increase your HP on this, so it's very good because one, again, when you're using your EX and your special attack, you're essentially gaining your shield, and it's going to dwindle over time, but it's scaling off 16% of your HP. So if you have a lot of HP, essentially Ben is going to be a tank. He's essentially going to be a damage sponge, so to speak. So that's a very good weapon, and I highly recommend it. As well, another weapon you can have is Original Transmorpher, and for its W engine effect, Starlight Knight Flying Kick, it will increase the maximum HP by 11%, and when attacked, the equipper's impact is increased by 14.5% for 12 seconds. So it's kind of depending between the two, between the Transmorpher and the Bunny Band, because they're pretty much the same. It's just the only difference is you're slightly getting more HP, and instead of attack, you're getting impact, which I feel like it's more beneficial for Ben to have impact, just because with that, you're being able to shred their days faster, and as a defense character, I feel like they're a little bit more closer towards stun characters type of play style, where they're doing heavy damage and they're stunning enemies. And so the Original Transmorpher and the Bunny Band, they're kind of going hand in hand, so they're kind of close to each other. And kind of as like a last thing for you guys, if you guys don't have any of these weapons, for a B rank, we have the Identity Base. And so with its W engine effect, Sinking Strike, when attacked, the equipper's defense increases by 29%. And so this is really good because you are going to essentially have increased defense. So when you're attacked, on top of that, I'm pretty sure once you're doing your block counter, that defense will add into it and scale on top of whatever percentage you have of your defense as damage. Now moving on to his best disc drives. For disc drives, I would want to recommend Shock Star Disco, Soul Rock, and Swing Jazz. For the pieces of Shock Star Disco, the 2-piece set increases impact by 6%, and the 4-piece basic attacks, dash attacks, and dodge counters inflict 20% more days on the main target. And that's really good because adding impact, like I said before, it's beneficial for you to have that since you want to daze the enemy quicker. So having that is going to work heavily so far with Ben. Next, we have Soul Rock. And so with Soul Rock, the 2-piece set increases defense by 16%, and the 4-piece, upon receiving an enemy's attack and losing HP, the equipper takes 40% less damage for 2.5 seconds. This effect can trigger once every 15 seconds. This is really good. However, when it comes to the 4-piece set, I feel like it is not as essential as 2-piece. So with the 2-piece, you're increasing your defense by 16%. But for losing HP and taking 40% less damage, you can essentially just increase your health and increase your defense, and you should be fine from there. And so now moving on to Swing Jazz. And so for its 2-piece set, energy regen increases by 20%, and for the 4-piece set, launching a chain attack or ultimate increases all squad members' damage by 15% for 12 seconds. Passive effect of the same name does not stack. And so with that 2-piece set, I would prefer as well, since you want more energy, and that's if you're lacking in energy, then that's kind of like a good thing for you. For 4-piece, wouldn't highly recommend, since I'd rather go for Shock Star Disco. And so for the different types of sets that you can have together collectively, you can have a 2-piece set Shock Star Disco, 2-piece set Soul Rock, and 2-piece set Swing Jazz, as well as a 4-piece Shock Star Disco and a 2-piece Soul Rock. As for main stats, again, like I said before in my previous videos, first 3 HP, attack, and defense. As for disc 4, you're going to want to prioritize on defense because, again, you want to stack defense on Ben as much as possible because, like I said, you're going to be scaling his damage based on defense. So damage is equaling defense. That's an important thing you need to take consideration of, since that is what you got to prioritize into stats. Same thing for disc 5. You also want to gain defense. Again, more damage is going to be beneficial for him when he has more defense. And lastly, for disc 6, you're going to want impact. Impact is going to be grateful for you since you want, again, to daze the enemy, since using his counters and everything is going to be great. So you're going to be able to daze and stun the enemy faster than ever. And as for substats, again, what's beneficial for him is going to be defense percentage, defense, and HP percent. Since again, he's going to be scaling off of his max HP, since he's going to be using his special attack, so it scales off of his HP, so how much shield he's gonna have, and as well as defense, again, for his damage. So then we're gonna move on to team comps. And so for best team comps, essentially for a pay to win or pay to play, essentially you can have Soldier 11, Olida, and Ben. And for a free to play, since it's more accessible, you can have Anton, Koleda, and Ben. Since they're both interchangeable, they're all great. They're all gonna have their passive, since with Soldier 11, they're all fire, and with Anton, they are all of Belobog Industries. Okay, so then moving on to Bangboos. And so for Bangboos that are beneficial and best for him, essentially is going to be the safety Bangboo. With the safety Bangboo, you're essentially dealing massive amounts of physical damage. But however, when there are 2 or more Belobog heavy industry characters in the squad, the Bangboo's chain attacks will be increased by 20%. And if the target is burning or shocked, the buff is going to be increased by additional 20%. So since Ben is a fire character and he's able to proc burn, that essentially is going to buff the Bangboo's damage by 20%. And if you have more than one character of Belobog heavy industries, they're going to have a total of 40%. Next, another great Bangboo would be Cryboo. Since Cryboo is essentially a fire damage dealing Bangboo, they're going to be building up fire anomaly. So it's going to be much easier for you and your characters and Ben himself to proc burn quicker. And so lastly, moving on to his talents or his cinemas. And so to start off with Cinema 1, Reacting Force. So when successfully blocking an enemy with Ben's special attack or EX special attack, the damage dealt by the blocked enemy is reduced by 30%. Basically, you are guaranteed having 30% reduced damage. For Cinema 2, Offense through Defense, when successfully triggering a block counter during Ben's special attack or EX special attack, he inflicts an additional 300% of Ben's defense as damage. And so if you were to add his weapon, which is his best weapon and signature weapon so far, Big Cylinder, with that you're adding that 960% upon critical hits with his defense. So also add on top of that, if you had his Cinema 2 being able to use that, and if that crits, you essentially will add 960 with 300. So with that, you'll roughly have around 1260% damage. And it's not going to be guaranteed, since one, with his weapon, you're going to have to gain a crit. But however, with Cinema 2, it's going to be a beneficial thing, since you're adding 300% and you're going to need to scale his defense. And like I said before, scaling his defense matters. So being able to do that is going to help you in the long run. For Cinema 4, Agile Adaptation. And so when successfully blocking enemy damage while Ben is invulnerable, this effect during his special attack or EX special, the following counter deals 30% more damage. When you're countering, since his block is his essential tool and his kit, you are going to be adding 30% more damage to that, which is good. It's really good. And then moving on lastly to his final one, Cinema 6, Wild Spirit. After launching an attack or follow-up attack during Ben's EX special attack, days inflicted by basic attacks, dash attacks, and dodge counters is increased by 20%. So again, like I said earlier, we're talking about with impact, this is good because you're also going to be increasing days, which is going to be increasing the amount that you can stun the enemy, or the rate as of how you're going to stun the enemy. And since it's going to last 12 seconds, you kind of want to prioritize using that as quick as possible and using as much of your attacks with Ben within that time. But when it comes to all these cinemas, I would say by far is getting Cinema 2. Cinema 2 is going to be great in the long run. Since you want to scale and stack up his defense, you're going to have a valued increase of 300% when you're doing your damage with your special attack and your EX special. So again, highly recommend Cinema 2. I hope this video helped you guys to improve on your Ben, his kit, his disk drives, and everything all of the above. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment down below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. And make sure to hit the bell notification, be notified when I post a new video. And to kind of lastly add, over around 92% or more of you guys are not subscribed. So if you guys wanted to subscribe and watch more content of me and want to check out more content in the future, just make sure to do that. It's free and it's not going to harm you. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys later.